If you're running a small business these days, you know you've got to be online, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But figuring out where to even start with digital marketing, I mean, it can feel like you're drowning in advice.
Absolutely.
So consider this deep dive your cheat sheet, okay?
Hmm.
We took this beginner's guide to digital marketing for small businesses, and we're going to break down the must-dos, like the stuff you can actually use right now to get a solid foundation online without, losing your mind.
Yeah, no, you got it. It's like figuring out what you absolutely can't skip. And this guide really emphasizes, like right off the bat, you have to know exactly who you're trying to reach with your message.
Right, so we're not talking about just like a general idea here. This guide says you've got to get super specific about your target audience. So yeah, we've got things like their age, where they live, but also what do they like? How do they act online? What are their biggest worries? I mean, why is that level of detail so important?
Well, because basically it's the starting point for everything else you do. If you don't really get who needs your product or service and what problems they're like actively trying to solve, your message just won't connect. You'll end up just like throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. Wasting time and money trying to reach the wrong people in the wrong places.
Yeah.
So yeah, you need that laser focus.
Okay, that makes total sense. So you've got that clear picture of your audience, then what? Well, the guide says the next big thing is your website, and they call it like your digital storefront, which I kind of love.
Yeah.
So for a small business that's just getting started online, what are the things about their website they absolutely cannot ignore?
The guide, it lays out some pretty clear non-starters. First off, it has to be easy to use on a phone. I mean, most people are going to be finding you on their phones these days. It has to load super quickly, too. Nobody's got the patience to wait around for a slow website. And when people land on your page, it needs to be obvious what you offer within, like, seconds. Don't make them hunt for it. And finally, you've got to have those clear calls to action. Make it super clear what you want visitors to do next, whether it's signing up for your email list or checking out your products.
Got it.
The good news is there are some pretty user-friendly platforms out there like, WordPress or Squarespace or even Shopify.
Right, so you don't have to be a tech whiz to make this happen.
Exactly.
Okay, so now you've got this awesome website. How do people actually find it? The guide dives into this thing called search engine optimization, SEO.
Ah, yes, SEO.
It can sound kind of intimidating, but what's the main idea a beginner needs to grasp?
Basically, it's about making sure your website shows up when people are searching for things related to your business. So think about using the words your ideal customers are actually typing in to those search bars, using them naturally in your content, creating stuff that's genuinely helpful and informative, and even getting other reputable websites to link back to you. That's a big one.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and for local businesses especially, setting up and optimizing your Google business profile. It's non-negotiable.
So that's how people in your area can find you
Yeah,
easily.
exactly. And the thing about SEO is it's a long game, right?
Right.
It takes time, but it's so worth it because it brings in those qualified visitors who are actually looking for what you offer.
It's free advertising, essentially.
Yeah, organic traffic, they call it.
Very cool. So SEO is the long game. What about making connections more immediately? The guide also talks about social media. I mean, there are so many platforms out there. How do you choose?
Right, it can be overwhelming. The smartest approach is to figure out where your target audience is already hanging out. If you got super visual products, Instagram might be your jam. If you're in like business to business, LinkedIn could be where you find your people. But no matter which platform you choose, the guide stresses that consistency is key. You got to show up regularly with valuable content, engage with your followers, and use the platform's features, things like stories or reels. It's much better to rock one or two platforms really well than to spread yourself too thin trying to be everywhere at once.
Quality over quantity.
Exactly.
Now, the guide also talks about email marketing. I mean, in this world of instant messaging, is email really still a thing for small businesses?
Oh, it totally is. Email is still one of the most powerful ways to build relationships with your audience. The guide suggests collecting email addresses through your website, maybe even in person at your store or events, and then sending out regular newsletters. And these newsletters, they should have valuable content, interesting insights, maybe some promotions or company updates. And here's a cool tip. Segment your email list.
What does that mean?
So basically, you divide your list based on people's interests or how they've interacted with your business before. This lets you send more targeted messages that they'll actually care about. And there are platforms like MailChimp or ConvertKit that make managing your email list way easier.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. Getting found online with SEO, having a great website, connecting on social media, staying in touch through email. Now, the guide also mentions paid advertising for businesses that want to kind of kick things into a higher gear.
Yeah, if you've got a little bit of budget to play with, paid ads can definitely help you get in front of more people faster. The guide talks about Google Ads, which are great for reaching people who are actively searching for what you offer. You can also do social media ads on platforms like Facebook and Instagram to target specific demographics and interests. And if you've got video content, YouTube ads can be super effective.
So many options.
Right. The key is to start with a clear goal in mind, test different approaches, and be really careful about tracking your results to see what's actually working.
Which brings us to the last big point the guide emphasizes, tracking and adjusting. It's all about being data-driven. How does a small business owner make sense of all that data? I mean, where do you even begin to look?
Well, the good news is there are free tools out there, like Google Analytics, which can help you understand your website traffic.
Okay.
See where people are coming from, what pages they're visiting, how long they're staying. Then there's Google Search Console, which shows you how you're performing in search results.
Oh, interesting.
And pretty much every social media platform has its own analytics dashboard. You just have to make a habit of checking these numbers regularly to see what's resonating with your audience and what's not. And then you use that information to refine your approach. Digital marketing, it's really all about constant learning and adapting.
That's such a great point. Okay, we've covered a ton of ground here. Understanding your audience, building a solid website, SEO, social media, email marketing, paid ads, and the importance of tracking everything.
Yeah.
And even if you just focus on a few of these things strategically, I mean, that can make a huge difference for your business.
Right, absolutely. I think that's the biggest takeaway from the guide. Digital marketing can seem like a lot, but if you concentrate on these foundational elements, you're off to a really strong start. It's about being consistent, being willing to learn, and letting the data guide you.
So with all this in mind, here's something to think about. What part of your current online presence, or maybe the one you're planning, do you think has the most potential for growth right now? And what's one small experiment, one little thing you could try this week to test that out? That's something to chew on until our next deep dive.